you guys. Welcome to Audrey's reading area. Shout out to my grandbabies, my very lovely and beautiful grandbabies. I love you and I miss you so much. Much love. This means I love you. To Korea, Sanaa, David the Third, and Kaden. Alexa, what time is Audrey's reading area?
Audrey reads in her area live at 5, and please subscribe.
Live at 5. Please subscribe. All right now. Yes, Multicultural Wednesdays. Wednesdays is the day we read books of things that happen in different cultures, different countries, different families. And this time, some cultures have, yes, military people, and probably all countries have them. Weapons, gear, and uniforms of the Vietnam War. I'm going to read a little bit about the culture of the Vietnam War. So put your listening ears on, sit back, kick back, and listen up. Listen up. So I have not read this book yet. So everything is a surprise to me too when I read it to you. It's written by Shelly Tougas, Tougas, consultant Jennifer L. Jones, chair Armed Forces History, NMAH, Smithsonian Institution Washington D. Take a look. A jungle war, uniforms, gear, light weapons, and heavy weapons. I'll try to read all of it, but if time consumes us, I may not be able to. That's the table of content. A jungle war. Let's see what it says. By 1954, Vietnam was split into North and South Vietnam. By 1955, war was brewing between the two countries. North Vietnam wanted communism. People there wanted North and South Vietnam to be a single communist country. The Northern Army was supported by the Soviet Union and China, two powerful communist countries. People in South Vietnam wanted to keep their non-communist government, but South Vietnam's military forces were weak. The South didn't have enough troops and equipment to fight the North. People in South Vietnam asked the United States and other countries for help. U.S. leaders decided to help keep communism out of South Vietnam. Yeah, at first the United States just sent military advisors, but troops soon followed. They sent in the troops. Eventually, U.S. forces supplied the majority of soldiers, weapons, and equipment used for fighting in the South. The United States had one of the strongest military forces in the world. U.S. weapons, vehicles, and gear outmatched North Vietnam's military. The United States and its allies, you know what an ally is? The allies are other countries that they get together and protect each other. Yes, buddies, they protect each other. That's their allies. If somebody messes with somebody that's my ally, I got to jump in and help them. That's the allies when it comes to war. And fighting. The United States and its allies believed the North Vietnamese army and the Viet Cong rebels in the South would quickly be defeated. Communism is a way of organizing a country so all the land, homes, and businesses belong to the government. However, by 1964, a full-scale war was underway. It was unlike anything the United States had ever faced. U.S. soldiers carried a lot of gear and weapons, but Viet Cong fighters carried little equipment. They could launch quick strikes and then disappear into the jungle in local villages. U.S. troops were often unable to tell who the enemy was. The war dragged on until 1975, when North Vietnamese forces took over South Vietnam's capital city of Saigon. It became one of the longest and costliest wars in U.S. history. Viet Cong, communist rebels who fought against the government in South Vietnam. That's what a Viet Cong is. Viet Cong. Can you see the pictures? Can you see the pictures? So, the Easter offensive, test offensive battles, Ho Chi Minh Trail. Battle fact. Take a look. Pause and read it. This is Cambodia, Ho Chi Minh City, South Vietnam, Gulf of Tonkin, Laos, Thailand, North Vietnam, and Hanoi. Map's interesting too. Major Vietnam battles. Check them out. And a trail of terror. So, a trail of terror says that the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong used a secret system of tunnels, small roads, and trails called the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It allowed the fighters to strike fast and hard and then quickly disappear. The trail also helped them to continually bring in fresh supplies. Some parts of the trail even served as small hospitals or secret weapon factories. U.S. soldiers sometimes discovered tunnels connected to the trail. Searching the tunnels was dangerous work. Many spots were designed to lure in an enemy soldier who would accidentally set off a booby trap. And that would probably blow up or something, right? Kill everybody that was in that tunnel. That's what the wars. Uniforms. North Vietnamese Army and Viet Cong uniforms. Vietnam's tropical climate was perfect for the Viet Cong's guerrilla warfare. U.S. soldiers struggled in the hot, rainy conditions, but the Viet Cong were used to the heat of the jungle and used it to their advantage. Vietnamese soldiers wore a variety of uniforms depending on their position with the North Vietnamese Army. Official Army helmets. That's their official helmets. North Vietnamese soldiers wore helmets made of pressed paper. Helmets sometimes included the Army's 5-pointed star symbol on the front. Official Army uniforms. Official North Vietnamese soldiers wore green canvas shirts and pants. Guerrilla warfare. The military action that uses small groups of fighters to carry out surprise attacks against enemy forces. Viet Cong headgear. Oh, look. Look at that. Interesting, right? Viet Cong fighters usually wore floppy cotton hats or cone-shaped wicker hats. A few fighters wore simple plastic helmets that were covered with rubber. And you can pause and read the battle fact. So the Viet Cong uniform, Viet Cong needed to quickly blend into local villages. They wore black cotton shirts and pants. Sometimes they wore canvas pants like local farmers. American soldiers never knew if a villager was friend or foe. Wow. Viet Cong footwear. The Viet Cong wore sandals like regular villagers. The sandals were often made from recycled tires. Do you see what they wore on their feet to go to war? U.S. uniforms. Rain ponchos and jungle boots were as important for U.S. soldiers as guns and grenades. The U.S. military worked hard to provide soldiers with uniforms suitable for jungle warfare. They spent large amounts of money to create special gear such as boots designed to reduce blisters and jungle rot in their feet. Air Force leather combat boots. If a U.S. airplane or helicopter was shot down, sometimes fires broke out in the cockpit. Pilots wore special boots designed to resist burning in case of a fire. U.S. military jungle boots. Look at these. Look at those. Jungle boots were designed with steel reinforced insoles to help protect soldiers against spiked booby traps. The boots were also specially designed to drain away water and provide good air movement. So jungle rot, a serious condition in which heat and humidity allow bacteria to grow and create large infected sores on a person's feet. Yeesh. These are their jungle helmets. You can read about it. And this is their combat jacket. You can read about that. And battle fact, it says, ooh, rats. Rats were a terrible problem for soldiers. At night, dozens of large rats would scamper into camp to search for food. Yeah. Rats. Gear, U.S. gear. U.S. soldiers could be away from their base for weeks at a time. In addition to their weapons, they had to carry a lot of heavy gear. Much of their gear was designed to help them survive in the jungle. Heavy-duty ponchos. Rubber ponchos were heavy, hot, and uncomfortable. Soldiers complained that it was easier to sit in the rain than to sweat under a poncho. Can you believe that? However, ponchos did provide protection against mosquitoes, fire ants, roaches, and scorpions. Water purification tablets. Soldiers carried water purification tablets for their drinking water. Drinking untreated water could lead to serious diseases. It's like, when they were out there at war and they were near these bodies of water in the earth, in the ground, sometimes it just wasn't clean and they had to pick some up and drop tablets that treated it, made it clean enough and, safe enough for them to drink it. Anti-personal mines. Anti-personal mines were used to form a protective barrier around soldiers' night camps. If triggered, a mine shot 700 steel balls across a 150-foot wide area. This gave soldiers some protection from nighttime attacks. Okay. Mine detectors. Soldiers used mine detectors to locate mines and other hidden weapons in Vietnamese villages. Land mines were a common weapon of the Viet Cong. They have PRC-25 radios. Wow, that's this right here. These radios were widely used in the war. Soldiers used the radios to stay in contact with other soldiers on the battlefield. The battery lasted up to 20 hours. Imagine that. Pretty cool, right? North Vietnamese and Viet Cong gear. The North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong were not as well supplied as U.S. forces. They had a shortage of radios and often had to carry messages on foot. Soldiers had to travel light so they could move quickly along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So here's a battle fact. You can read it. Viet Cong survival kits. They carried survival kits. The kits usually included medicinal herbs and spices, tea, bandages, and syringes. Environmental disguises. The North Vietnamese were experts at blending into their surroundings. They carried a circular frame on their backs with grass and brush attached to it. When helicopters or planes flew overhead, the soldiers lay flat on the ground to hide. That's serious, yeah. Mess kits. North Vietnamese mess kits included a bowl, chopsticks, a spoon, and a tube of dried rice. Most soldiers ate rice every day. Mm. Mm. He's trying to catch some Z's. Light weapons. North Vietnamese and Viet Cong light weapons. Soldiers from both sides carried lightweight weapons and explosive. Many of the North Vietnamese Army's weapons were old guns from the Soviet Union and China. Viet Cong fighters often made their own lightweight weapons. So you can see the AK-47 rifle, the handmade weapons. Pause and read if you want to. SKS carbines, 75 millimeter, recoilless rifles. Wow. Ammunition, bayonet, and bunker. You can read. Pause and read. I'm not going to spend too much time on the weapons. U.S. light weapons. I will let you pause and read also. Pause and read. Pause and read. Blades, grenades, and booby traps. Oh, they had a lot of booby traps. I remember from watching some of these movies, right? Both the U.S. and North Vietnamese armies used various blades and small explosives. Grenades were a key weapon for U.S. soldiers. Bayonets served well as weapons for soldiers on guard duty, and the Viet Cong created many types of booby traps that took enemy troops by surprise. M7 bayonet. Grenades. These are grenades. Yeah, you pull the pin and you throw it and they explode. Landmines. These are what landmine looks like. The Viet Cong buried tens of thousands of landmines across the country. When a soldier stepped on the mine and lifted his foot, the mine would explode. The Viet Cong often got villagers to gather pieces of exploded landmines to rebuild and reuse them. Cluster bombs. Punji spike booby traps. Ooh, if you fall on that, I'm sure it hurts. Probably can kill you too. Let me read about Punji strike booby traps. Punji spikes made terrifying weapons. The Viet Cong often placed these bamboo spikes in a pit, then covered the pit with branches and leaves to hide it. So you could be running by and not see it on the ground and you fall right in. When an enemy fell in the trap, he would be stabbed with the spikes. The spikes were usually smeared with poison or human waste to make the wounds more deadly. Ooh. Ooh. That's what it looked like. Heavy weapons is the artillery. Pause and read. Pause and read. Armored vehicles. Armored vehicles. Tanks and jeeps did not perform well in the wettest areas of Vietnam. They often got stuck in the mud, but in spite of the wet climate, both U.S. and North Vietnamese forces fought with a variety of armored vehicles during the war. M48 tanks. In southern Vietnam, U.S. soldiers used the M48 tank to secure and control roads. It traveled about 30 miles per hour and carried 2 machine guns. Battle fact: the Viet Cong occasionally traveled and hauled equipment with elephants. So go ahead and read. You can pause. Look at this. Pause and read. Yeah. Interesting. Helicopters and planes. My mom loves, shout out to my mom, Bev. She loves airplanes. They fly over her house and she can sit there and tell you what kind of plane that is. Okay. Helicopters and planes. The conflict in Vietnam saw the first heavy use of helicopters in combat. There were few places for airplanes to land in Vietnam's thick jungles, but helicopters could land in small clearings to drop off and pick up soldiers. So check out the helicopters and read about it. Pause, and read. Wow. The Phantom. I'm going to read to you about the Phantom. They have this one too. Ooh, dropping those things. The Stratofortress bombers. F-4 Phantom 2. Look at that. Looks serious. It says Navy on it. The North Vietnamese gave U.S. ground forces a hard time with the MiG-21, but U.S. forces had the F-4 Phantom 2. This fighter plane was faster, and it carried a variety of weapons, including radar-guided bombs. Ships and riverboats. So Vietnam was mainly a jungle war, but the U.S. Navy also had a role. Aircraft carriers supported airstrikes, while naval ships provided seaside gunfire. However, Vietnam's rivers played a more important role in the war. The Viet Cong used the rivers as supply routes. To stop them, the U.S. Navy created a brown water navy that patrolled the rivers. Look at that. River patrol boats. Look at that. River patrol boats stopped shipments of weapons and supplies in Vietnam's rivers. They were sleek, fast boats that carried machine guns and grenade launchers and a cannon. Alpha boats. U.S. alpha boats were designed to withstand blasts from underwater mines. Their job was to sweep the river before the patrol boats arrived. So check this out. Chemical weapons. Junk. A Chinese sailing boat with square sails and a flat bottom. Wow. Interesting. So junks. North Vietnamese forces used small, sleek boats called junks. They weren't designed to be used in battle. Instead, they were used to sneak weapons and supplies to troops on the river. So would you like me to read them? I'm going to read this to you. Chemical weapons. Vietnam's thick jungle provided cover for the Viet Cong. To overcome this, U.S. forces dropped napalm on enemy positions. Napalm is a chemical substance that burns hotter than 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 1,093 degrees Celsius. The thick, sticky chemical clung to people's skin and caused severe burns. Most victims died. U.S. forces also used chemicals to strip the leaves off trees and plants. The chemicals had code names like Agent Orange and Agent Purple. However, the chemicals hurt more than just plants. People exposed to the chemicals often became sick. Children were often born with severe birth defects. U.S. soldiers suffered bad effects from the chemicals too. Many became sick after they returned home. So junk, a Chinese sailing boat with square sails and a flat bottom. Junks. Here's a glossary. I am going to put it in front and you can pause and read and pause and read. These are, it's glossary. Almost like vocabulary words that we give our students, right? It's a glossary of words that you may or may not know already and their definition of what those things are. And that is the end of this book. Weapons, Gear, and Uniforms of the Vietnam War by Shelly Tougas. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Oh, shout out to my mama, of course. Shout out to my mom, Bev, and shout out to my colleague, Roderick. Thank you guys for listening to me read all these fun, exciting, and multicultural books like this, because you know this is certain cultures. Yes, Multicultural Wednesday. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you, Mama. Mwah, love you. Shout out to you, Roderick. Peace, peace, peace. Yes. And see you later. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, thank you, thank you for clicking like, sharing. Thank you for going to YouTube, looking for Audrey's Reading Area. And smashing that subscribe button for me. All right, all right, all right. Now, I'll see you tomorrow, right? Live, Live, live at 5. Tomorrow, I'll see ya tomorrow. It's only one day away, and I'll see you. Don't be late. Don't miss it. Here at Audrey's Reading Area.